Welcome to episode 3 of the Dadger, where Badger pride meets parent life. We talk sports, we talk family, and we talk about what it means to be built the Wisconsin way. Today, we're pumped to be joined by a true Wisconsin product, a former Badger, fullback, Richland Center native, and now motivational speaker, mentor, and proud dad of 4 boys, Bradie Ewing. Thanks for joining me, Brady.
You bet, Adam. Thanks for having me.
So in the opening remark there, I said grew up in Richland Center. You have 2 older siblings and then a younger sister, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we grew up here in Richland Center, and my wife and I moved back a couple years ago, and just grateful to be back and have some of my siblings here close too with their young families.
I mean, your whole family, from what I've seen, doing a little research online, is was pretty good at sports. It looks like. So,
Yeah.
I had a similar kind of situation going through high school. I'm obviously from Belmont, which is quite a bit smaller than Richland Center, but
Uh-huh.
uh, so I had 4 siblings, older siblings, all go through high school before I got through there. And I always felt like I had to live up to, the weighted name or, basically keep it going. Did you feel like that having 2 older siblings kind of go through Richland Center prior to you?
A little bit. I mean, that's a really good question. A little bit. My brother is the oldest, and he had a ton of sports success in basketball, football, and did some track as well. And yeah, I mean, most of my young career, I was spent chasing those guys around to basketball tournaments or different events that they were doing, AAU basketball. I mean, we played a ton of basketball growing up. So my sister as well, she did basketball, volleyball, and softball, track, depending on the year. So yeah, much of what I was doing was throughout my athletic career was trying to keep up with them, and that probably helped me in the long run just develop quicker, get ready to go, and I had the chance then to go out and try to live up to the expectations they set throughout the process. I'm sure you probably lived that too, it sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned you're a 3-sport athlete. They were all 3-sport athletes.
Yeah.
So it might be a stupid question, but I think I already know the answer. Do you think kids should play more than one sport growing up, or specialize on specific sports?
Great question. Yeah, I think I love playing multiple sports. At high school, I think is definitely a great thing, but especially as a kid, not that we're doing everything perfect as parents, but our kids are in everything under the sun that they can be in. From you know, like I mentioned, I played basketball, but we got them in basketball and wrestling. We got them in football and soccer. We got them in doing some track stuff. We got them doing baseball stuff. So
Yeah,
I
that
think
was
it's
that was in my notes. I listened to one of your interviews on a podcast, and you were talking about how your son was wrestling, and I was like, oh man. So are you like at that age? Obviously, they don't
yeah.
really have to pick. Are you kind of just letting the kids feel out and get comfortable with what sport's going to be theirs, and just rolling with it? Or are you kind of like,
Mhm.
I don't know, dad was a pretty good basketball player, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I know where my heart lies. Like I'm all about basketball and, at least for winter sports, but that's not just because I care for something and I love a sport doesn't mean they have to. So I think exposing them not only to help them continue to learn the process it takes to be successful at things, the work that it takes to be good and to be competitive. I think that's great. I think it's good to put your body in different situations and different athletic demands. So there's that side of it. But then also, like, they might take a liking to something, whether it's soccer, whether it's wrestling. It's nothing that I did, at least at the high school level, but we have my third son right now, Banks, is he's all about being a wrestler. And I'm totally supportive of that. Whatever the kids want to do. I mean, they're homeschooled, so they just left here a little bit ago to go to piano lessons. Like if
Okay.
they're drawn to music and that's what they want to do, like as long as they pursue a passion, like I'm all for it. And I'm a little biased, and I'm sure you are with the sports you played and what you're passionate about. But I think we can all set that aside as dads to let them pursue their passions. And because they can learn so much from that.
Yeah, for sure. In the podcast, avoiding the addiction affliction you were on, you talk about your parents supporting you and fully giving you, the life that maybe they didn't have growing up. So being a parent now yourself is
Yeah.
the is that the same goal? Kind of give your kids a better life. Not that you didn't have a good life, but give your kids a
Yep.
better life than you had growing up, or is it like your parents? You got to live up. That's the standard to beat, right there.
Yeah. I mean, probably the standard was set, I think, they gave us every opportunity from AAU basketball to camps that we wanted to go to, allowing us to not have to work during the summer so we could focus on strength and conditioning and, different activities from an athletics perspective. Um, so I think it's probably more of a standard. And, I think it's also important to note, this is the Dadger podcast, so it's a lot about being a dad. It's like this looks different for different families. Like the standard isn't a gold standard across, all avenues of, chasing athletic endeavors. And it looks different for different families, and I'm fortunate to where I'm working and doing that, but my wife is able to stay home with the kids and help, and homeschooling them. She loves that. And the kids have enjoyed it and they've taken a liking to it. And that's the way we do it. That's the way we make it work. That doesn't mean that's the best way or the gold standard, but it works for us. And I think finding out what works for you and your significant other and also your kids, like, I had to learn a lot with my kids and how to parent. Our first son, Bennett, is very similar to me. So that was kind of natural to parent him. But then some of our other kids are wired very differently. We have to parent them differently. So I think as dads, it's like there's no necessarily gold standard. I think we have to set our own standards for our family, for our kids, and then work and strive to live up to those on a daily basis.
Yeah. So, do you have a favorite age yet that your kids go through, or is it just it's been different with every single one of them?
It had, I mean, it's been different. I mean, when we only had one kid, our Bennett, I love that age, like the, year and a half to 3 year age where they're just, full of energy and, running around the house and just trying to figure out the world. And,
Yep.
it's as they're a kid and a baby, like that's amazing to hold your little one in your arms. But as they start moving around, start babbling, like I love that age. They're just so curious and what's going on in the world. How about you? What's your favorite?
Uh, I only got one right now. He's 6 months, but he's definitely starting to kind of form his own personality, which is cool to see. I mean, yeah,
Hmm.
mom loves the younger months because it was, all cuddling and
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, let's get him walking so I can do some stuff with him.
No doubt. Yeah, that is fun when they transition from, hanging out, laying around, doing tummy time to walking around and exploring the world. So I'm excited to hear how that progresses for you.
Yeah, thank you. In kind of bring it back to high school here. We'll touch more on some of your later years as we go here. But in the Survive and Thrive podcast, you actually say you were more passionate about basketball. So what made you choose football? Because Bo Ryan wanted you to walk on at the Badgers, correct?
He did, yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I would say early in my career, I think this is probably the way I said it on that podcast, but also like you did a lot of homework. Like that's
Yeah,
pretty cool to hear.
I
Love it.
I don't want to kind of recycle
Yeah,
questions that you've already had, so uh, try to do a little bit of homework at least, I guess.
it's good stuff. I appreciate that. Yeah, these been some different angled questions and fun to chat about here. But yeah, I mean, early in my career, I thought that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to play, college basketball, and like I had mentioned, my parents gave me opportunities to do that. So I'd say early, basketball, and I played basketball this morning at the high school, just pick up, Sunrise Old Man's League, and got up and down the court a little bit. But I just love that. I love the game, and as my high school career progressed, the passion for football grew, like the opportunity for football grew to where, I I would say they were kind of like equals at that point, and I just felt like I had a better opportunity to pursue the football thing, and I didn't really want to try to do both. I wanted to, I had done the three sport athlete. I played a lot of sports growing up, from wrestling to other soccer to, and it was nice to make that transition, focus on one, go all in from developing your body and all of that. But um,
Yeah,
I
and I
love the game of basketball.
I
Great
assume,
game.
the decision process too was something like, football has way more open spots for you to go earn as opposed to
Mhm.
basketball. Um,
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's just a numbers game. You look at some of the guys that play college basketball, like I'm a 5'11" dude. I could jump, but those guys, even guards are,
hey, Brad
6'2", 6'3",
Davison,
6'4".
Showalter, all those guys did.
No doubt. And those guys, like, that was what was cool, is like there was a blueprint on each side at the basketball team, from the walk-on program, the in-state guys. Like, I felt like I could have fit the mold there. And as well as on football, you look at Luke Swan, and many, he was one that was near and dear to my heart through my high school
Yeah,
career. But
Fenimore.
many, yeah, Fenimore, Wisconsin, many other guys that laid the blueprint. So fortunate that people before me gave me the vision to then, go out and try to carry that forward in whatever I chose.
So did you have that discussion with your parents? Like formally say, I'm going to go try to walk on at the Badgers. And I assume that was based on what you've been telling me, they were all for it.
Yeah, I mean, it was it was interesting, just the recruiting process in general. So, like, it got to the point where we thought, at least for Wisconsin football, there may come a point where I get offered a scholarship, down the recruiting stretch, just depending on how those numbers landed
Yeah.
in that recruiting class.
Because Wisconsin used to do that quite a bit, let guys walk on, and then if they earned their spot, they would give them a scholarship later in their career.
Yep, and that was the case for me. But even as a high school senior, before I signed my intent to walk on, there was the chance that somebody would back out of the recruiting cycle, or now the numbers would just fall differently to where I would get a scholarship. But from that regard, I think they knew they had a kid that from Wisconsin wanted to be a part of the program. And I mean, let's be honest too. Like, I only had one Division I scholarship offer, um, out west at North Dakota. So,
Okay.
there wasn't other than walking on at Wisconsin for football, some other walk-on opportunities. It was really D2 or that D1 opportunity at North Dakota as a linebacker. And so, yeah, it was a conversation I had with my parents down the stretch, and they were super supportive of me pursuing my dream and walking on, and with the hopes of then helping the team, obviously, but earning a scholarship as my career progressed at Wisconsin.
What was the hardest transition? Because you have made, a couple jumps, high school to college, or, college to NFL, because every single one, it ramps up in intensity and speed and power. So what did you think between the three of those transitions? What was the hardest for you?
For me, probably going from high school to college. So while I mentioned earlier I was excited to focus on one sport, I think that was tough for me to be, I guess there's different types of toughness in the transition that I'm going to talk about here. Tough to go from, going from football to basketball to track, having those distinct seasons in high school. I really like that. And so to be focusing year round on training in the weight room, fall camp, the season, spring ball, summer training, is like, okay, I'm focused on developing my body in football all year round, which was awesome, and it was good for me given my history. But as far as the jump of the game, I would say college too. Um, you go from playing in small town Wisconsin, and we had a decent conference and played some decent teams, but you go and everybody is the best player from their team at Wisconsin. You're playing against grown men. You're coming in as an 18-year-old freshman, and you're playing against some 22, 23-year-old guys that have been doing this for a while. So I think that was a big jump in the physicality of it. Also, the mental side of the game. Like, we didn't watch film a ton in high school. We didn't. Um, run a super complex offense. So learning the offense, learning the amount of film study it took to be successful, let alone, playing against some grown men out there. It was just a big jump mentally, physically, and then you throw school on top of that. It's like, okay, this was a huge transition in one's life.
Yes. So if I could tie in socially too, was it a shell shock for you once you first got to Madison? Or not really, because I think you said in one of those podcasts you roomed with Paul Lanier, who was also
Yeah.
from Richland Center. So, um, but there's so much to do in Madison. I lived there 2 years. There's just so much
Hmm.
in the area, especially for like college kids. You could
Yep.
get in like real trouble if you.
No doubt. Yeah, no, Paul, yeah, you're right. Paul, I remember with Paul Lanier, who was a track athlete at Wisconsin, just a phenomenal athlete.
I jumped against him in high school. He was nuts.
Oh, it was crazy. I mean, four-time state high jump
Yeah.
champion, multiple long jump, multiple triple jump, just phenomenal athlete, an incredibly hard worker throughout that whole process. So yeah, I mean, we've been friends since, preschool, kindergarten. So to be able to have us leaving Richland Center the same year, room together at Wisconsin, that was a supernatural transition for both of us coming from a small town to Madison with all those changes that I had just talked about. And yeah, it was a big transition socially. Paul helped bridge that. The fact that I was only an hour away from home really helped that. My dad traveled for work quite a bit, so he was always coming through Madison. So it was a tough transition. Um, in full transparency, I kept my nose pretty clean. Like I didn't go out a ton as a college athlete, really at all. And so to just be focused on how could I be the best I can be on the field, in the classroom, to really take advantage of the opportunity while I had it. And fortunate, I was able to even be able to do that at that level.
Speaking transitions here, you
Mhm.
actually started as a running back, but then were asked to transition into fullback. Since you have been both at Wisconsin, would you say Wisconsin is running back university or fullback university? Because those the fullbacks, Cecil Martin, you got Alec Ingle, you got Derek Watt, like
Yeah.
those are some big names that have gone through there. And I mean, obviously yourself too.
Yeah. No, I'd say it's running back you. I mean, and I think that's what's cool about the fullback position is that like you're just a workhorse of the offense. You're basically a miniature extension of the offensive line out there blocking, trying to give the running back or the quarterback the opportunity to do what they do. And I don't think you could probably, well, Matt Bernstein and many of those others you mentioned, you could talk to them and I imagine they would say, well, they take pride in the fact that we've historically had great fullbacks. You're taking pride in that because of the opportunities you're able to give the running back. At least that was my mindset, and I'll stick with it. But man, you could go down the line. You could say it's O line. You could tight end. You
Yeah,
outside
linebackers.
backer.
Yeah.
I mean, there's we've had a great run of different talent coming through Wisconsin in different positions, and it's just special to be a part of that tradition.
For sure. So, um, talking a little bit about the transition from running back to fullback still here.
Hmm.
Um, was it just like, you know what, if it gets me on on the field and we're winning, I'll do anything I can here? Because I think
Hmm.
coachability and having guys that are okay with, not being the stud guy on the team, or, are okay with going into some of these role player roles. I mean, do you have any advice for high schoolers or college athletes that are maybe struggling with realizing their role on the team and how they fit into their own team success?
Yeah, I mean, another really good question. I think, yeah, for me originally, I came in as a running back, played some special teams, like you said. It was, hey, if I can help the team, like I'm a Wisconsin guy. Like, we all, I'm sure most folks in this state grew up watching, Badger football and support the program. Like I was just thankful to be a part of it. And if, knowing that they brought in a top running back or two every year, Fullback definitely was a mode where I could get in and get into the offense and help as soon as Mickey Turner graduated. And so I wanted to be on the field first and foremost. I wanted to contribute and help. And yeah, and let's be honest, like if I could put some weight on, I think it was a really good fit for me, and it ended up being a great fit. As far as
That was my next question. What did the diet plan look like? Did they have you on like a calorie count? Because my cousin actually played for middle linebacker for Northern Illinois, but I mean they had him bulk up and he had to, he's on a calorie count and just he's like some days you were like, oh my gosh, you're just full and felt gross and
oh, for sure. I mean, I look back at, you know, I weigh about what I did when I came into Wisconsin right now. I'm 205, 210. That's what I left high school at Richland Center. And, came into Wisconsin, put some weight on initially, but I think that freshman year I played at maybe 215, 220. But that was the thing. They wanted me to hit that 240, 245 threshold. And I really struggled to get my weight up there. So I wasn't necessarily on a specific calorie tracker, but I was on the weight gainer plan where the very first thing you had to do each morning as you was come into the facility, drink, they had these 32-ounce cups and they would either I would make it or they would, Coach Bott or somebody would make a shake. And it was probably, I would say, 1,800 to 2,500 calories per shake, maybe more. I mean, because it was 32-ounce cup and then usually a quarter of another 32-ounce cup with, weight gainer powder, oats, berries, peanut butter, milk. I mean, basically any calorie dense food under the sun that you could throw in there. And so that's what you started your day off. And then they had me more in like a mindset and a system of trying to eat every 2 hours. So, I'd have that at say 6:30, trying to eat a snack at 8:30, and then all throughout the day, every 2 hour increment, except maybe when you're out on the practice field. So just as an example for lunch, that was back in the $5 footlong days for Subway. And, I would usually get 2 footlongs and I would eat 18 inches of them with double meat, with double cheese, eat 18 inches for lunch. And then 2 to 2.5 hours later, I'd eat the other 6 inches as a, quote unquote snack. So I guess if that gives you a snapshot, my estimate's like anywhere from 6 to 8,000 calories per day. And I was able to get up to that, I think high 230s my junior year. And then senior year, I think the heaviest I was just shy of 250. And so
245 is rough, man. I'm 6'4" and I'm 230 right now.
I mean, yeah, think of a 5'11" and a half or
Right.
just shy of 6 foot. I mean, and so I think it was a lot of work to keep it up. And it was fun. Like you said, you have a relative, I think, that played at Northern Illinois. It was fun for like the first week or two, but then it literally becomes a chore and a job to be able to consume enough calories to maintain and exceed where you need to be from a weight perspective. And they're constantly tracking it too. They're constantly taking
Right.
weights before and after practice for hydration, but also, more weekly as far as the weight gain trajectory too.
You mentioned it a little bit. You kind of said it, but you also said it on the camp podcast that you were recently on here. And I like the mentality behind it. You said fullbacks are basically just miniature offensive linemen.
Yeah.
So, did you ever have to go against did you ever have to go full speed, I guess, in practice against anyone like JJ or Lewis Nzegwu? But well, actually, you probably played against Lewis in high school. He's in the
I
same
did.
conference as you, wasn't he?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Had a chance to play Lewis. It seemed like he was always dinged up a little bit when we played him. So we had a chance to play him down at Camp Randall. And I think they used to call it like the Badger Classic,
Yep.
just a regular season game at
Yep.
Camp Randall. That was an amazing experience. And then I know he was dealing with some wrist stuff. I think either one or a couple of the games we played them. But yeah, just a phenomenal athlete. I mean, you look at him, the Hamptons from Lancaster.
Yeah,
Oh,
Lancaster had some good teams back when we were going through high school for sure.
oh, they were dominant. And
Yeah.
so to be able to then go into a locker room and see those guys not as an enemy, quote unquote enemy, but to see them as somebody from your team and actually get to know them personally. it was super rewarding because they're just normal guys. You know, you look at them wearing the opponent's colors, but then they're just normal guys, you know, that have been blessed with great talents, have worked incredibly hard, and um, yeah, it's cool to be get to know them personally. But as far as the miniature offensive linemen, yeah, I mean, we were always trying to get either at the point of attack or cutting off the backside, and yeah, block JJ, block Lewis in practice, and those guys were great. Probably one of the tougher guys to block. Not a defensive lineman, but a linebacker, Chris Borland, man. He was so low to the ground, had a low center of gravity,
He had a
was
motor.
super physical, had a motor. If you did get on him, you know, he wasn't going to give up till the whistle blew, which I always tried to pride myself on too. But then had the knack and the ability to know when, you know, he'd bring it one play and hit you in the mouth and stalemate you. And then the next play, he would just be able to, you know, swim off, use his hands, and he would just keep you guessing, keep you on your heels, and just so powerful. I mean, just packed a punch. So again, it's not always about the size of somebody because I don't know how tall Chris is, but maybe 5'10", maybe shorter than that.
Yeah.
But the guy just had great vision, a great motor, and just incredibly talented. So
And
blocked some
linebacker,
good ones through the years.
linebacker is one of those positions too, where it's like if you are just a natural at reading the plays, which it felt like he
Mhm.
was, it's just so hard to block those guys.
It is. And Chris, you know, we used to play two square, four square in the locker room, and you know, you go shoot baskets with guys. Like Chris was just a natural, gifted athlete, and I'm sure he worked incredibly hard at all of those different things. But I feel like you could put Chris in any athletic situation, and the guy would be like top tier right away. He's just a special guy.
Is there somebody that wasn't on the Badgers that you went against that you used to hate seeing, or you have like a specific story of you know like a dive or something, and you know a linebacker just met you right in the hole and blew it up?
Yeah, I do get that question a little bit more. So like as far as a guy, like I don't really recall that, you know, throughout my career, but I always had a ton of respect for the Penn State linebackers. You know, played them a few times throughout my college career, and they were just so disciplined, so physical, very technically sound. You know, you could get away with things against other teams or other players that against Penn State you just had to be dialed in 100%. And so always had a ton of respect for them. And they played a similar brand of football to us. But honestly, like the way that we practiced when we were there, we tried to pride ourselves on being physical, tried to pride ourselves on outlasting the opponent. And so we practiced that way. We would go full pads multiple times throughout the week, and you know, we'd be so physical throughout practice. So a ton of respect for the scout team. Like there would be weeks that we'd be grinding out against our scout team. I can remember Derek Watt back when he was a linebacker, you know, going against him and inside drill and different things. Like the physicality we felt there and the way we had to work to be successful in practice really prepared us. It's cliche as heck, but it really prepared us for game day because I'd go out and block on Saturdays and it would be easier. You know, you have the adrenaline and the emotion of the game too, but it would be easier than what we were facing in practice, both from schematic wise, but also some of the personnel, like our scout team, you know, played us really well and prepared us well for those games.
Yeah, the 2010, 2011 teams were crazy. I mean, did you know in the moment when you were playing with those guys just how special that those teams were? Because for me as a fan, like looking back, I'm like, man, I wish I would have appreciated that a little bit more. Like those were
Yeah.
some good teams, and a lot of NFL players came from both of those teams.
Yeah, I think it's, at least for me, it's always been tough to appreciate those things in the moment. You know, you look around and you see, you know, all of the talent we had in those couple years from O linemen, especially on the offensive side of the ball, because I'm partial to that, but tight ends, O linemen, quarterbacks, receiving talent, running backs. It's like, holy crap, every position we have NFL caliber talent. But in the moment, in the grind of it all, you're just going day by day, you know, investing in the weight room, on the practice field. You're just constantly chipping away to be the best you can be. And the coaches do a good job keeping you in check on, what their expectations are for you and the program. And so it's tough really to look big picture in those moments, at least like I said, it was for me. And then all of a sudden you look back after the season and you're like, holy cow, this guy, our sixth offensive lineman who was in on special situations, gets drafted
Yep.
for O lineman to go to the Cowboys, Bill Nagy. It's like, and he had some injury stuff, so I mean, he could have definitely been competing for a starting spot and did start some games, but yeah, just really special the talent we were around and the way that Coach Chris and the other coaches were able to use that talent to then create a multi-dimensional offense to keep defenses on their heels.
So sticking with kind of appreciating and being in the moment, is the
Mhm.
coolest thing you've been a part of in your sports career being on the field during jump around, or is it having possibly the most famous thrown block in recent Badger history on that David Gilreath return?
Yeah, that was, again, you're in the moment, but to start a game of that caliber, talking about that kick return against Ohio State when they were number one at home, night game, you're just doing your job. But
If I were you,
it,
I'd have it framed like you putting the kicker on his back, like, yep, that was me.
yeah, actually, yeah, that would be awesome to have a picture of that. I've never seen one, and probably could take some of the video stuff and try to make one. But those are special moments, and I talk about it when I'm out speaking or people ask me questions. You know, it's you remember those moments, and those are big games. You won a big game, but you also remember just weird moments. Where you're in the weight room at 5:30 in the morning, just grinding alongside guys, and I mention this quite a bit, but driving to the stadium, we used to drive our mopeds like all year round, even in the snow. Driving to winter conditioning at 5:30 in the morning with 5 or 6 inches of fresh fallen snow, and you're riding with like four of your buddies over to the stadium. There's no hasn't been plowed, no car tracks out there. You're like, what are we doing? But you had to get the lift and you just put your feet down like you're supporting yourself like a snowmobile or skis and just get off to the races. So those games are awesome, but then you also just remember the relationships, the people, and some of those quirky moments along the journey. Uh,
if
yeah,
if
pretty
if I
special.
can take it back to that specific game, so
Yeah.
the game ends, fans rush the field,
Hmm.
myself being one of them. As a
Nice.
player, was that scary, or because they tell the security guards, like, if the fans start rushing the field, just run, don't try to stop them, basically.
Hmm.
Like, it's such a massive um entity, basically, that's out of your control.
Right.
But was it just like, you guys just had so much adrenaline after winning that game, where it was like you were just on cloud nine, or did it ever cross your mind, like, I don't know, this is kind of scary?
I mean, you see that now too. Sometimes you see these, they're trying, I think, as much as possible to keep fans off the court or field after a game, big games like that. But like you said, if they're coming and they're, working as a unit to get out on the field, like you're not really going to stop them. And, in that moment, I wasn't scared at all. It was honestly pretty cool to be, celebrating with your teammates, celebrating with fans that, created a great atmosphere that game and historically at Camp Randall. So that was really cool. But I would say most cool about it was then, my family ended up down on the field, seeing them, seeing friends that were at that game in the student section or, at the game in general, and just being able to share that moment with people that, have supported the journey and been a part of it, whether it be family or friends or your teammates, most importantly, your coaches. So pretty special moment. And, you know, seeing the pictures now of people hanging on the
Yep.
goalposts and on the
That
field,
was
like
not me, I swear, that was not me. But no,
nice.
I mean, that was such a cool, even being a fan, and being able to get on the field and just the energy that it had afterwards was nuts. So fast forward to the end of your college career.
Mhm.
So for the draft, you stayed home with your family. Was that a way for you to honor or thank your parents for everything they did for you to get you to that point?
Well, yeah, it was, but honestly, I didn't really have many other options. Not like I was going
Yeah, I
to,
suppose.
go to the draft itself, like some of the first rounders, or, I know some people throw a party for the community, but for me, it was more about being with, like you said it, the people that impacted my journey throughout along the way. And, my parents, my grandparents, my wife, Rachel, we had just gotten married, like I think 2 weeks prior to that on April 14th. And yeah, just be with those that are closest to me and just take in the moment and try to enjoy it. Um, pretty, pretty stressful weekend to figure out if and where you're going to end up and what type of a situation you'll be, what team will you be in, will you get drafted, will you be free agent? And there's a lot of unknowns, but a lot of excitement too, and just trying to enjoy it with those that had been a huge part of that journey to that point. And we're going to be then going forward too.
You talk a lot about having obtainable goals and um, having dreams.
Hmm.
Once you got to the league, I assume that was your dream. How I mean past that, what were your dreams after that, I guess, cuz like you made it. So then
Yep.
what?
Yeah. Another good question. I mean, for me, I had seen, so I came into college as a walk on. And so I had a chip on my shoulder from day one, not only because I wanted to help the team, I wanted to contribute, but I wanted to be a scholarship guy. One, because there's financially benefits to that, but also, to me, that was a goal I wanted to reach. And I was able to reach that, in my last couple of years at Wisconsin. But I also saw a lot of guys come into Wisconsin that were scholarship guys. And to them, that was the destination. Like that was, okay, I got my scholarship. I came to Wisconsin, and all of a sudden their foot came off the gas pedal. And for me, coming in, like I said, as a walk-on guy, like I got the opportunity. It's like, okay, I'm doubling down. Like I'm shifting gears and I'm putting the gas pedal to the floor. And so, similarly going into the NFL, like I tried to follow the same blueprint. And, while it was a little bit different this time, I was drafted. I went to a situation that was really good. Um, so it was putting the foot pedal to the floor, learning the new offense, learning the new system, trying to be a contributor on special teams and as a fullback right out of the gate. And the good Lord just had different plans for me from an injury perspective. But that's the same way I tried to attack the injuries, and maybe that's where you're going to be going next. But is okay, like this is my job to train my body to get back to 100%. So I was looking for anything and everything I could do to get my edge that was, legal, and, from massage therapy for acupuncture, dry needling to hyperbaric chamber, um, chiropractor, just trying to put myself in a position to succeed because I knew the window of opportunity was very short, that I would have this opportunity. And I was trying to keep my foot on the gas pedal to take advantage of every moment I could.
Yeah, so I had Marquise Mason on for my first episode, who
Hmm.
unfortunately had injuries that sidelined him his entire college career.
Yep.
But he said something super smart, and I think it resonates with a lot of athletes. He said he didn't want to just be seen as an athlete, and I
Hmm.
think a lot of athletes feel that same way. And once their sports careers are over, they struggle with figuring out who they actually are without sports.
Hmm.
You've successfully done it. Um, from retiring from the NFL, having kids now, starting this motivational speaking. Um, do you have any advice for, athletes that are struggling with this?
Yeah, I think yeah, this is just speaking from my experience, but I do think it's a tough transition because and it was tough for me. Like I was successful through the transition, but it was still tough because you go from a game that you are doing through college while you're getting your education, but you're putting so much time, energy, it just like any goal or anything you're trying to do, like it just consumes you, your mind, your energy, the way you eat, the way okay, I'm going to go to sleep earlier tonight. I'm going to study this. Like it's like every waking moment that I wasn't focusing on school, really it was like my mindset was into football. And then you compound that, whether that be college or the NFL, where that's your job to do that. And you have the financial opportunity to make some money to set yourself up and your family up to through that transition. Like that raises the stakes in the bar a little bit. So as far as advice for somebody that's an athlete, um, I guess my advice would be from day one, define what success looks like for you. Is success reaching a certain end goal? Is that reaching the NFL? And is that reaching the NBA? My hope is that success for athletes is greater than that. Like it's greater and it's broader than just reaching an end destination. It's about being the best version of yourself you can be. What qualities, what things can I learn by facing adversity, whether that be losing a game, losing a snap or a match, uh, or having a losing season or facing an injury. It could be winning a championship. It could be both ends of the spectrum. It could be the adversity or the successes, quote unquote successes, but have a bigger picture than just the wins and losses, successes in your life and who you want to be. And I think I struggled with it throughout my career of my identity being an athlete. The injuries helped me just naturally come to grips with the fact that, I'm first and foremost a believer in Christ as a foundation in my life, who happens to be an athlete. That grew into being a dad. Um, so establish an identity that's greater than the game, I think, from square one. And that's always constantly going to be a battle. But I guess that would be some words for encouragement for people that are either going through it or are really investing in athletics. It's like athletics is awesome. It's a great thing to compete. It's a great avenue to keep your body active. It's a great thing to chase your dreams. Like I'm all for that, but just keep your mind right in the fact that, and just keep it in perspective, like what the big picture is and what success looks like. It's about being a good person. It's about helping others achieve their goals. It's bigger than just the wins and losses.
Definitely. When you played in the NFL, you played for Atlanta and Jacksonville. Was the
Yep.
decision to move back to Richland Center to raise your own family a no-brainer for you? Um, was the decision to be close to family or live that small town kind of family-oriented life that small Wisconsin towns typically have, or was it
hmm
a combination of all of the above?
I'd say it was a combination. We got done in Jacksonville and we actually moved back to Madison for a few years before moving back to Richland Center. And I think that was a nice natural progression for us and our family. But I think you hit it on the head. I think it's a combination of both. It's being close to family. My parents are here in Richland Center. My wife's parents are here in Richland Center. I have siblings here. Um, we value what small town community is, but also the community is what it is to us because family is here and because so many people are here that impacted our lives throughout, my wife and I's life growing up here in Richmond Center. So definitely a combination of both.
Yeah, and I think in one of the podcasts you talked a little bit about the community really rallying around you guys growing up. Uh, your sister had cancer, I believe.
hmm Yep, that's
Um,
correct.
I mean, it's just crazy that the support you get in small areas like that. So,
Yeah, it
um,
was huge.
so let's talk about life after the NFL, transitioning once again into kind of this motivational speaking. Was that always something you had been passionate about? Excuse me. Or how
Yeah.
did you get into that?
Yeah, it honestly it wasn't. And if you would go back to college, Brady, and say, hey, someday you're going to be doing motivational speaking or, mentorship or doing workshops to help people with their leadership skills and try to be the best they can be, like I probably would have said you're crazy. Like public speaking, I would say has never been necessarily a strong suit of mine, or at least I didn't feel like it was. And that's probably some of my insecurities just ringing through. But um, no, it wasn't really in the plans, but it's been a really cool, I think sport has given me a natural platform to where I can speak at least my experiences and what I've learned through that process. And it's just kind of naturally happened through the coaching realm, and then decided to pursue it a couple years ago and have had success working with high schools, working with sports teams, athletic departments, starting to do more with businesses now. And it's been a really fun way to hopefully empower others to be the best that they can be in whatever they're pursuing.
Yeah, in one of the podcasts that you were on, you talk about being a captain, but never really being that vocal.
Yeah.
Um, so I started this little backstory. I started this. It was an idea, but I started it after having obviously my kid Mav, and I kind of did it because I'd always wanted to do it, but I also wanted to show him, hopefully when he's old enough, it's okay to be afraid to do something that is outside of your comfort zone, but
Hmm.
don't let it define what you do in life. Um,
Love that.
were you scared of going outside of your comfort zone? Starting with the motivational speaking here, because like you said, I mean it's public speaking, and you're in front of quite a few people. Like, this is terrifying for me, like me and you talking. I can't imagine being in like an auditorium with a bunch of kids, you know.
Oh man, you're doing great. I think that, yes, I was terrified. And I prepare much like it sounds like you did, like preparation throughout my athletic career helped reduce some of that quote unquote anxiety, reduce some of the anticipation of the game. It just built confidence in me that I could go out and execute under pressure because I had had reps, I had done my homework, I had prepared for the moment. And so I've taken that same blueprint and applied it to a bunch of areas in my life, but the motivational speaking stuff too. So those first couple ones were, yeah, terrifying to jump up on a stage, share my story, share what I've learned. There's fear of failure, fear of rejection, all sorts of fears that come to mind. But I think that is what's cool too, because those are some of our biggest growth opportunities. Like, it'd be easy to go stick with your strengths all day. If you're a computers guy, you're not a social guy. It's like, okay, you can go do that, and that's great, but how can you grow? How can you get better? And challenging some of those areas is definitely a way to do that. So yeah, to go and sit in front of a auditorium of, I did one recently, 700 kids in an auditorium for two back-to-back sessions,
It's a no
and
for
it's
me, dog.
just and it's still like you still get up there and you're like, okay, trust your preparation, take a deep breath, be in the moment, be genuine, and just, I don't,
And I'm sure
I,
once you get in your groove, it's like you're not even thinking about it after, you get into it.
yeah.
But
And that's the same
it's
with football too.
you know
Like you go out for opening kickoff, like that Ohio State game, like every game I was on kickoff, return, or kickoff, starting that game. Okay, there's the buzz, the anticipation of the game. There's the buzz going around in the stadium. And then, okay, the whistle blows, the kick goes off, and it's like, okay, now we're playing football again. And as long as you stay out of your own way, stay out of your own head, and be in the moment, those are great growth opportunities to then look at, learn from, and grow from, and then just keep getting better.
Yeah. I mean, it always makes me think of like the anxiety you get because I know you ran track, but like in the blocks,
Oh yeah.
you know, everything's quiet and you're just, I mean, for me, when I ran hurdles, it was just like I was, my mind was going a mile a minute. And then as soon as gun went off, it's like, you forget about everything.
Were you a 110 guy or a 300 hurdler?
300.
300?
Yeah. Well, I
I
know you ran hurdles, so I figured I'd drop that in there. What
I
were you a
like it.
110 or 300?
I was a 110 guy,
I mean,
and
props to you guys. I mean, I'm as I said, I'm 6'4", so you'd think it'd be a little bit easier for me the 3-step technique, but I just couldn't find that rhythm ever.
yeah, I didn't do a lot of hurdles till I think my junior year. We had a Harlan Flip came in as one of the main coaches at Richland Center Track, and he's like, up to that point, I was running the 100, doing long jump. He's like, "You're a hurdler." I have pretty long legs for a 6 foot guy, and he's like, "You're a hurdler." So he started working with me on technique, and I started to really embrace it and love it, and yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. But I never tinkered with the 300. I always had props for you guys because to be able to combine that technique with just the endurance, but just gritting it out. It's kind of like the 400. It's
Oh
like,
yeah,
okay, you're just gonna grit it out. You're gonna
that
push,
back
and you're gonna.
100 always sucked.
Ooh, mad respect for you guys.
Yeah, but okay. So tie it back to the motivational speaking a little bit here. So, if someone who wants to reach out to book you, how would they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, you could reach out to me on any of the socials. So, LinkedIn. I'm trying to put content out on all the different platforms. Um, just sharing some of the experiences I've had and some of the thought process, but that would be a great avenue. So, Bradie Ewing on LinkedIn,
Yep,
on
I'll
X, it would
share the
be,
link if people are watching on YouTube. Just go down to the description, and I'll have a link to his page.
yeah. So check it out there. I'm been doing this for a couple years now, but finally going to get a website up and rolling here in the near term future. So working on that, but yeah, those would be great avenues to reach out to me at, and I'm happy you can post my email in the show notes as well. That would
Yep.
be a great way to reach out to me about how we can better understand what your goals are, and then how I might be able to help.
We talked a little bit about dreams earlier. Is the dream with the this new career? Do you have an end goal in mind, like a dream scenario that you kind of want to get to, like maybe like a commencement speaker for Wisconsin or something? Um, I
That'd
don't
be
know.
cool.
I don't know if you just saw John Gruden went into the Badger locker room. It was probably like 2 months ago now, but whew, that guy can fire you up. That speech,
Oh
man.
yeah, I did see that. The highlights of it up in the team meeting room there.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that was really cool to see. It's nice to see some of those figures and those guys that have that history like that coming back around the program. But as far as goals for the motivational speaking, right now, like it's pretty tangible still to where I'm, and I think it will remain this way, but just trying to make an impact on every person I come in contact with, hopefully give them a nugget or two that they can take with them to help them in whatever they're pursuing, whether that be sports, a career, um, a challenge they might be going through with family. So I think that will remain my focus, to be very intentional to help every single person that's in the audience and whoever I'm working with. Um, as it grows, I'd love to do more in the business world, love to do more with, bigger isn't always better, but it's cool to, grow it and continue to impact people at different stages of their career. So I'd love to get involved more in college athletics and, uh, commencement speaker, things like that, but haven't really mapped out exactly what that looks like. Just still trying to make an impact one person at a time.
When people ask you, I don't know, are you a big reader, like books?
Audio, I do more from an audio book
Okay.
perspective.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, is there like a go-to book that you always recommend to people? Because the only reason I ask is because a lot of your interviews that I've listened to, I've read a lot of self-help books that you're um, you're kind of preaching as well. Like,
Hmm.
habit forming. There's some really good books on that. Um, I
Yep.
don't know. Do you got a favorite one that you recommend to people?
I love Start With Why, Simon Sinek, I believe, but love that book and just the foundational principle of, okay, if you start from a place and you think about where do I want to end up and why do I want to end up there, answering that question can give you the roadmap, the habits, you know, and the motivation to go accomplish that. So I love that book. Um, that's probably my go-to right now. Or Energy Bus by John Gordon. Like if you haven't read that one, like that is a great place to start of the impact that just bringing energy, positive attitude, support for other people, like that can bring to your life and to those around you. Like we read that when I was with the Atlanta Falcons, and John actually came in and spoke to our team and helped work through that book, and just really enjoyed that. And it's super easy, super quick read. That one I actually read the hardcover.
There you go.
The actual paper copy versus the audio version. But that's a great book. That's a great read too.
Awesome. All right. Well, I have two questions that I always end these interviews with. Thank you again
Hmm.
for coming on, Brady. It's been awesome.
My
So
pleasure.
the
Thanks for
first
having
one
me.
I always ask is, if your kids somehow come across this interview when they're 18 or 19, what is one piece of life advice you want them to take away from it?
Oh man,
I
just
know
gave
it's
me
it's a tough
goosebumps,
one, yeah.
man. Yeah, I mean, I guess my mind goes to adversity. Like things aren't always going to go the way you expect them to go. But if you can take those failures, challenges, that adversity, whatever type of opposition it might be, injuries, not getting what you expected or wanted, failing at a game or making an error at something, it's like if you can take those moments and learn from them and grow from them yourself, and then hopefully take those failures or those adversity and then go help other people and support them. I think, yeah, I think that's all I would want them to do.
And then last but not least, I always got to ask it, how do you think the Badgers football team are going to do this year? This is
Tough
my
schedule, man.
third episode, and I've not had good answers from Marquise Mason or Justin Ostrowski. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping you give me something good. No, honest
Yeah, I mean,
opinion.
you did your homework. So the most recent one I did was the camp podcast,
Yep.
and we talked a little bit about that.
They basically forced you to have a positive outcome on that one though, because
I
they
know. That's
labeled
what
it
I said.
the positive episode.
The positivity episode.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, no, I'm honestly a super tough schedule. And I think that is going to be the norm going forward in the Big Ten. Like all boats are rising. Illinois is good. Minnesota's, continuing to be competitive, let alone the Ohio States and, Oregon and some of these other schools that we're going to have to play consistently going forward. So that's not
I
helping
mean,
us. I
even
think,
even Indiana. Not that we
I mean, Indiana,
play them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Back when one of the years I played, I think we beat Indiana 70 something to,
My
I don't even
brother-in-law
remember what the score was.
went to Indiana, and we went to some of the games there, and then he came to a couple at Camp Randall. But it was like, this isn't even going to be fun for you to watch, dude. Like, we're going to wax you.
But that mindset as a fan, as a player, like that was the mindset, right? I mean, we were going to assert our will on people, whether it be somebody like Indiana who's struggling as a program, has since, in a different spot, or Ohio State. Like we were going to go out and do what we did. And I feel like we're missing that a little bit right now. I don't know what our identity is, and we have an offensive coordinator transition. I think Fickle, from an outsider's perspective, I had a chance to meet him and see some of his practices. I think he's a great leader, and I think he encourages the team. I think he runs a great practice. all of those things. But I guess what I'm excited about, I'm an optimistic guy. I'll say that. But what I'm excited about is the new offensive coordinator, and I think his focus on what has made Wisconsin great throughout since the 90s. He's focusing on establishing the run, starting in the trenches, and then using the talent that he has. I think Jeff Grimes is his name, using the talent that he has on the team. And I think that's all you can ask for is, especially at a place like Wisconsin, if you can focus on the trenches, the O line, establishing things there, establishing the run in the game, whatever that looks like. I think that's what I'm excited to see. As far as a record, it's going to be a challenge, man. I mean, that schedule is tough. So I didn't give you a firm answer. Are you looking for
Yeah, I
like a
did.
record prediction?
No. I mean, they just signed Fickle to a contract extension in February, but you think he's on the hot seat if we don't make a bowl game again? I know a lot of
Yeah.
people were not thrilled about that, myself included.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because
The
I mean,
history of
growing up,
Wisconsin football is just, I mean, it's tough because
yeah, I
they've
mean,
had
it's this
such a
super high
history.
bar.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, I think if he doesn't, I think he's probably got a year or two. I'd say probably leaning more towards two. But yeah, I think I'm optimistic that we'll have success. I mean, you have to take into consideration who we're playing, what that
Yeah.
looks like. But I can remember my freshman year, there was a lot of expectations, and we went, I think, 7-6 my freshman year of college. So that was, I can name off a bunch of the players that were like seniors there, but that was a huge disappointment. We made a bowl game, we made the Champ Sports Bowl, so we kept the bowl streak going. But like that was not an acceptable season.
Yeah.
And so I don't by no means I don't think this is acceptable what we've had this last couple years. And I think the coaching staff would agree with that. Like, and they're striving to do better. And I think establishing an offensive identity first and foremost is going to help that.
Yep. Yep. All right. Well, that's all I got for you. Thank you again for being on.
You bet.
I'll, like I said, I'll drop all your info in the description on Spotify and YouTube. And thanks again for being on, Brady.
You bet, Adam. Thanks for having me, man.